Hey guys, welcome to a new crochet realm video. Today I want to show you how I made my cardigan. Hold on a second, just a second. So this is the cardigan, this is the front, okay? That's the back. You can see my cardigan fits me. It has decreases here. It has decreases at the back. If you add a button to it, it looks like a dress. Just be careful what you wear under, because this thing is still open. Let's talk a little bit about the construction of the cardigan. This is the top part, the upper part of the cardigan. Armhole openings, these things here. The skirt part of the cardigan, and these two form the neckline at the back. I wrote that this cardigan is an extra small size because once you close it up at the middle at the waistline, it fits very well my extra small mannequin. But if I keep it open, it fits me just as well, and I think I am a medium size person. What else? Here, this represents how the motifs join to each other. So these two will join here. This one will join with this side. This motif will join to the other motif. This is the shoulder line, yes? And this neckline motif joins to the motif here from the front to form that edging at the back of the neckline. To talk a little bit about the motif or the colors chosen for this motif, you can work in a single color, and that will save a lot of time in making the cardigan because you're not gonna have as many tails to hide or weave in at the back of your motif. But if you choose to work like me in 4 different colors, then you're gonna have to choose your own colors. I used Artist brand crochet thread size 10, that it's Egyptian mercerized cotton, and Aunt Lydia size 10. You can find these threads, Aunt Lydia you can find at Michael's, Joann's, redheart.com, and Artist brand you can find at Hobby Lobby stores or at hobbylobby.com. This is the chart of the popcorn motif, the little motif. So you can make a screenshot, print this out, and have it in front of you if you read charts and you're gonna need it. It's not a difficult motif to make, and these are the legend of the symbols. So these are US terms. If you do not want to have the decreases at the waistline, then your cardigan will look like this. This cardigan does not have decreases in the middle here. It only has decreases at the skirt, so that I could have the necessary number of motifs for the bottom of the cardigan. But at the waistline, it does not have decreases, so this is how it looks. So if you want to have it more loose like this, then you do not need to work these decreases. Just simply continue working 8 petal motifs in the required numbers. I'm gonna start my work here at the 10th row of the skirt. I'm gonna start it up here. So I need 24 motifs in one line, joined in one line like that. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Before we start, I want to show you something about the motif. Notice the motif has picots all around it. Now there are picots with single crochets in between, and there are picots with a chain 2 space in between. When you will join the motifs to each other, always make sure that you join the picots that have the chain 2 space in between. Okay? I'm gonna explain the chart really quick. It's an easy pattern. You don't need to, it's not rocket science. So you start with chain 4, you slip stitch in the 4th chain from hook to end this, to create this ring. Next row, you start with a chain 1 and work 8 single crochets into this little ring. Slip stitch to form the round. Okay, if you're gonna work in different colors, then you have to cut the thread after each row or round, weave it in right away, and then start the new row. If you are working in one single color, then you do not need to cut the thread after each round, obviously. The next row starts with a beginning 5 double crochet popcorn stitch. So chain 3 for the first double crochet, and then another 4 double crochets into this same stitch, into your first stitch. Create your popcorn, chain 3, and repeat this stitch and chain 3 space for each single crochet around. So in the next stitch, popcorn, chain 3, next stitch, popcorn, chain 3, until the end. You slip stitch into the first popcorn. Next round starts with a chain 1 into this place, into any chain 3 actually space before a popcorn. Okay, always in the point here or here, not here, but it's always facing to your left, kinda. So let's say it starts here, so you have a single crochet into this place, and then you have another single crochet into your next chain 3 space, so close to the popcorn, so they are close together. And then chain 3 into this chain 3 space, work your 3 double crochet cluster with a chain 3 picot on top of the cluster. Chain 3 and finish this chain 3 space with a single crochet in it, and repeat this thing for each chain 3 space around. At the end, you're gonna see, if you are working with a single color, with a one color thread, you're gonna have to end up here with a double crochet into the first single. But if you're working different colors like I'm gonna work, then you have to chain 3 here and end it in the single crochet with a slip stitch. Next row starts at the top of this chain 3 space, the chain 3 space that is at the left of the okay, it's on your left, kind of like. So chain 1, single crochet into this space, chain 6, single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 1 that goes behind this picot, and then single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 6, single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 1 that goes behind the picot, and so on and so forth till you get back at your first single crochet. And the next round starts into the chain 6. Actually no, you do not cut the thread here, because now you have to cover the chain 6 space with single crochets. So if you end up here, you're gonna slip stitch into your chain 6 space, chain 1, and then work 2 single crochets into the space. So this is like that, and then picot out of chain 3, and then you have 3 single crochets into this same space, picot out of chain 3, 2 single crochets into this same space, chain 1, and then you continue with the single crochets and picots into the next chain 6 space. I'm gonna demonstrate this next, so don't worry, I am gonna show you everything. I'm using a 2mm hook to create the motifs, and 0.75mm to weave in the ends at the back of the motif. So I'm gonna start with my darkest color. So if you notice, the secret for this, it's you start in the center with the darkest color and then you go outwards to the lightest color. It depends on the shades you are choosing for your motif, or you can go the other way around, like you start with the lightest and you finish with the darkest. It doesn't matter, that is your own choice. This is like a design element, and this is personal. You decide for yourself what you want. I'm gonna start with my darkest color to create the ring. What am I having here? Oh, all right. So we start with our slip knot. This is how I do it. I go with the hook under the yarn, hold it with my finger, and doing this, and catch it, and then I pull my loop through, and there you have. Of course, I'm not supposed to teach you how to crochet. I'm just gonna show you how I make everything I make, so I might as well show you how I do my stitches. All right, so chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the 4th chain from hook. Into this little ring you have to make 8 single crochets, and you start the row with a chain 1, which is not going to be counted. So 8 single crochets into this little ring. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now slip stitch into the first single crochet, like up here, not in the first chain 1, but in the first single crochet of your round. Chain 1, and I'm gonna cut this thread because I'm working in 4 different colors. Not too long, very little. Don't need to worry about the length. And now I have to weave this in. I'm gonna zoom in a little just so you know, so you see better. See, this is the end from the first chain. I can cut this. I might as well weave it in, but I'm gonna cut it. But this one, in this case, I'm gonna weave it in like this. I'm gonna go into the loops of these single crochets into this loop that faces the back, okay? I'm gonna take my thread and I'm just gonna pull it through these loops till I run out of it. I never show how I weave in the ends in my videos because I know each person has its own method. Some people like to leave a longer tail and then with a needle, darning needle or whatever, they weave it in. I like to use my smaller hook to just hide the end between the back of the stitches at the back. Okay, this is how it looks, your ringlet. Now, with the new color, which in my case it's a lighter shade of blue, that is called Cornflower from Artist, I am going to work the popcorn round. Again, I am taking a piece and I'm making a loop like this, not too big, like a small loop. I'm gonna hold it with my hands like that, taking my ring, and I'm gonna count from the moment where I slipped 1 stitch, and in the second one I'm gonna insert my hook, and that's where I'm going to start the new round. This is for accuracy purposes, like you want to have a neat work. Hold it, pull the loop through the stitch, and create your first chain. Now we need to work here the popcorn stitch row, which is first popcorn begins with a double crochet made out of chain 3, and then in the same stitch work 4 double crochets, making sure that you hold this tail at the back of your work and you work it in, like, you know, you work over it as well. So have your 5 double crochets into this stitch. If you watched my previous videos, you know that I've shown this little flower before. But if you're here for the first time, then I have to show it again, just because maybe you don't have time to go back into an old video and watch it again. So we go with the hook. So you drop this loop, you go with the hook into the 3rd chain of your first double crochet, take the loop and pull it through that, and you create your popcorn stitch. Now chain 3. So this is all you have to have in each single crochet around: a popcorn stitch out of 5 double crochets and the chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, popcorn, stitch is done, and the chain 3. So keep going like that till the end of this round. We end our little motif with a slip stitch into the first popcorn stitch right here. Chain 1, and I will cut my thread. You don't have to cut your thread if you are working in a single color. What I just want to show you, if you're working in a single color, next round starts with a single crochet into this space before, okay? You don't go further, but before this, like that. Into that space, you're gonna start with a single crochet. So I'm gonna cut not too long of a tail, and I'm gonna weave it in at the back of my stitches. How? I'm gonna pull it down a little like this, and then I'm going into these stitches here, into these two, and I'm taking it, carrying it through them, and then I'm going back into these. So basically at the back of your stitches, hide it in until you run out of it. Be gentle not to pull other loops of your previously made stitches like I just did, if you can see. You want to have a neat work, and this will ensure the quality of your work. And if you're working in different colors like me, then you have to weave it in now, because you can't wait until you finish the whole motif. It's gonna be not fun. So why I'm showing you how I weave it in, because I never showed you before how I weave in, and some people had, you know, they were wondering, how do you weave in when you work in a lacy pattern? So I decided that I probably should show them how I weave in my ends as well. Okay, nothing can be seen. Now you're ready to move on to your next round. In my case, it's going to be a lighter shade of blue than the previously one used. And I am looking for where I ended up the last row, which is here. So I'm going to go across, and I'm going to start my new row here into any chain 3 space. So this is my lighter shade of blue, which is called Ice Blue from Artist. All right, and again, I'm making a loop like that, holding it with my hands. I have the hook in place where I need to start my new round, and I'm gonna start with a chain 1, all the while holding that end with my other 2 fingers. So in the same space here, I'm working a single crochet. Now look what I'm doing now. I'm gonna weave this in right away into the chain 3 spaces between the loops of these spaces. That will secure this tail even more when I am working my new stitches over these spaces. So that's the only reason why I chose to weave it in like this. It takes a little bit of time and patience, so do not get bored. This is a learning video. If you want to make the cardigan badly, you need to have a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance. I do not want to tell you how many times I unraveled and disassembled the cardigan and then assembled it back just to get to the result that I got, because I wasn't happy with the previous results. And it's like a puzzle that you take apart and then you put back together. So now I'm ready to continue because I weaved in that, so it's not in my way. So in each chain 3 space around, work single crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster, so 1 unfinished double crochet, 2nd unfinished double crochet, 3rd unfinished double crochet, finish the cluster as 1 double crochet, chain 3 because you're going to work a picot on top of this cluster, slip stitch into the front upper bars or loops of this cluster, slip stitch, and then chain 3, and in this same space finish it with a single crochet. So this you work for every chain 3 space around. Again, single crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet cluster, picot on top of this cluster, so chain 3 and slip stitch into the front 4 loops, chain 3 and single crochet into this same space. Repeat that around. I'll see you at the end. Okay, I'm at the end of this round. So remember, if you're working in different colors, you have to end with chain 3 slip stitch into your first single crochet. But if you're working in a single color, then you are ending your motif with a double crochet into this stitch, into the first single crochet. Okay, so I'm ending it here with a slip stitch. Cut the thread a little bit like this, not too long, and you need to weave it in. I always pull it down at the back like that, and it hides this little chain. So when you look from the right side, you cannot see where your row ended or your round ended. I'm gonna go into these 2 stitches here, if you can see, into these 2 loops of the single crochets, going through once like that, and I'm not gonna weave them in here because they don't sit perfectly there, but I'm gonna weave it in the second row, like I did with the other tail. So just go in between these stitches because these are more compact together and they will hold this tail better in there, like this, till it disappears. So, are we having fun yet? I know it's gonna be a lot of work, but I'm gonna try to keep the video as short as possible. Like, I don't know, not too many details or not too much crochet, I don't know. The cardigan is actually pretty simple if you have that chart in front of you and you understand the principle of joining the motifs. Then you do not need my help if you are an experienced crocheteer. But if you like company when you're making your stuff, then you might as well keep watching and observe my process of work. This is literally how I start working on any projects. Like, I just simply take the yarn, the hook, and I start crocheting. The notes, the charts, the schematics come in the process, of course, but all right, next one for me is this lighter blue. Obviously, before I wanted to make something with it, and then I changed my mind, and I'm reusing this thread for these other purposes. Again, I'm gonna make this loop, not too long, a little bit, because like that. Now, where did I end? See, I cannot even tell where I ended. I ended up here, so I'm gonna go up here like this. I'm turning my motif like this, and in the chain 3 space that is after the cluster, okay, I'm gonna start, that is following the cluster. I'm gonna start with a chain 1. You guys that have one single color, just keep going with a chain 1 and single crochet into that double crochet you ended the previous round with. So single crochet into the first chain 3 space. While you are weaving in this, work chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Single crochet into the next chain 3 space. Chain 1, remember I said this chain 1 goes behind the picot. Single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 6, and single crochet into the next chain 3 space. And that's how you keep going till the end of this round. And do not cut your thread here if you're working like me, because you're going to use it for the next round too. So just keep going in pattern, and I'll see you at the beginning of this round. So I am at the end, so chain 1, go behind the picot and slip stitch into the first single crochet of your round. Slip stitch to the first chain 6 space, chain 1, and now we have to cover our spaces with single crochets and picots. So 2 single crochets in the same space, picot out of chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the third chain from hook, 3 single crochets into this same space, picot out of chain 3, two single crochets into this same space, and chain 2. Now keep going with single crochets and picots in each chain 6 space around. I'll show you one more time. 2 single crochets into your next space. Now chain 3, slip stitch into the third chain from hook to create your picot, 3 single crochets into same space, chain 3, slip stitch into the third chain from hook to create your second picot into this space, yeah, and 2 single crochets to complete this section, and chain 2. Keep going like this around until you get to your first single crochet. First single crochet here, you slip stitch into it. Hold on, where is it? Here. So once you've done chain 2, you slip stitch into the first single crochet, and then you weave in, okay, chain 1, cut the thread, and then you weave it in into these, at the back of these single crochets, and go into the loops of these single crochets, and then keep going here, depending how long that tail of yours is. Mine ends somewhere here. So the motif is done. Your first motif is done. Now I have to show you how to connect to your next motif or to a next motif. So you can see I've already connected a few. Remember when I said that, I'm just going to show you this, that you have to connect the motifs, the picots that have a chain 2 in between. So this is what you do. Let's say this is your second motif and you started to cover your chain 6 spaces. So we need to start covering that. Always do this and you'll never fail. So the chain 1 is done, 2 single crochets. First picot, just work it as usual out of chain 3 and slip stitch into the third chain. Now 3 single crochets into this same space. Now this next picot you have to join to any picot that has a chain 2 space in between. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a chain 1. The second chain stitch of this picot becomes a slip stitch into your picot to join, and since this is my picot to join right here because it has a chain 2 space in between these two, so you do that, chain 1 and slip stitch into your third stitch from hook in your working motif. Now 2 single crochets into this same space, chain 2, and keep going in pattern, joining the next picot to the previous motif. So 2 single crochets here and then chain 1. Now second chain of your picot becomes a slip stitch that has to join the next picot of your previous motif. Chain 1, slip stitch into the third stitch from hook, and continue in pattern with 3 single crochets into this same space. Picot. This picot already does not need to join anything, you just continue in pattern. So this is how you join your second motif to the first. So keep going around, finish it the way you're finishing your motif, weave it in, and we'll go to your next joining motif. Okay, so let's say you have your 2 motifs joined together. Now you need to keep joining the third, the fourth, the fifth, and all of them. So the first 2 are joined. The next one starts the same way, in the same point. You worked your first picot, you worked the 3 single crochets, and with the next picot you start joining. So chain 1 here. How do you know which one? You count 6 picots down. In the 7th one you join. So it's very, very easy. And then you just keep joining the same way I just showed you, and you create your first row of motifs for the given part of the cardigan that you're working on. Since I started with the skirt, I need to have 24 motifs in one row, in one line. I don't know, I'm gonna show you on the schematics in a second. So just keep joining like that. So I have how many? 2, 4, 6, and this is my 7th. Now, to keep track of what you're doing, you can do this, because I'm working at this row here. I'm at this row here at the number 10. So I joined 2, 4, 6. So I'm gonna cut 2, 4, and 6. And I need to keep going until I have my first row of motifs. So let's say you have your line done, your horizontally. I showed you how to join the motifs, and now you need to start a new row of motifs. Let's say you are here at the new row. So if you look down, it's going to be the same. You just go, so you are at your last round, you made your first picot, and after the 3 single crochets, the next picot has to join. So chain 1. Now this time you're going to count from the joining point of this motif. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the 4th picot you join with a slip stitch. So chain 1. The system is the same, you just have to count your picots and pay attention which one joins to which one. Continue in pattern until your next joining picot. I'm not going to repeat myself here because I already said it. And join your next picot. And then just keep going in pattern till the end of this round and finish your motif. I don't have patience to finish this motif now, but I want to show you the next step. So let's say I completed this motif. Now it's time to add a new motif. I just want to show you how you place it like this. So the 2 picots that have the chain 2 space, they face each other. This one joins to this one joins to this one. And then you work in pattern for another 2 picots until you get to the picot that has to join these 2 picots. So pay attention. When you're gonna start joining, you're gonna count from here already, from this joining point, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're gonna start joining with this picot and then move on to this. And then you're gonna work 2 free picots. And the next 2 will have to join these 2 because you have to have 2 free picots on each side of this empty space. I'm just going to show you really quick. Where did I end this up? Oh, it's right here. So not too far, right here. I'll just, actually I need 2 of those. This one. So because I'm joining 2 sides, on this side and then on this side. So chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this, the 4th one, becomes the first one to join. The joining process is absolutely the same. Nothing new here. Chain 2, then 2 single crochets. And this picot joins the next picot of your motif. And now you have to work in pattern for another 2 picots. So these next 2 picots do not join anything. They're just free picots. You're gonna fill that space with a joining motif later. Okay, 3. So this is the second free picot, and beginning with the next picot, I'm gonna have to join to the upper side of this motif. So chain 1, and now I'm counting from here, 1, 2, and then 3 and 4 gets to be joined. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. It makes sense to me, and it's really not complicated. Like, it seems so easy. It looks easy, and it is easy. All right, and the second one to the next picot. And that's what you do for all the other motifs you need to add to this piece. I could probably show you quickly, like a crash course, right, of which motif joins to another, but I think I have to do it in order. So you get the idea. You continue in pattern and you finish this motif, and after you've done this whole rectangle, I'm gonna show you the next step. I just don't want to show it to you now because I don't want you to get confused into all of these motifs: 8 petal, 10 petal, 12 petal, and so on and so forth. So let's take a pause. I give you time to do this skirt, and it's 24 motifs by 10 rows, so you need to have 240 motifs in a big rectangle piece, crocheted fabric. So for the next step, after you've done the big rectangle piece, you have to turn your chart upside down, and you need to join the next motifs, only the 8 petal ones. So 1 8 petal here, and then you skip 2, and you're gonna put a 8 petal onto here, skip another 2, put an 8 petal onto the next, skip 2, put another petal, 8 petal motif onto this next motif, skip 1 2 3 4 motifs, and then just arrange the motifs the way it is said in this chart. Okay, and once you've done that, I'm gonna show you how I join the 10 petal motif to these two, and how to make the 10 petal motif the same way as the 8 is just, instead of, let's say that if you have 8 popcorns here, you're gonna have 8 single crochets here, and that means you're gonna start with a chain 4. But you need to have a 10 petal motif. That means you need to have 10 popcorns, 10 single crochets, and here you need to have 5 chain stitches. And the same thing goes for the 12 petal motif, which means you need to start with a chain 6, 12 single crochets, 12 popcorns. All the rest stays the same, but the number of the clusters obviously will change, and the numbers of the chain 6 spaces. Nothing complicated. You just adjust to the number of your petals in a motif. But all that later. For now, let's work on our big rectangle piece of crochet fabric. And thank you for watching this part. I will see you in the next part.